productivity apps. We use Word, we use Excel, we might use Access. Our life is full of productivity, calendar, all types of them. So let's kind of go through them and see what we can pick up here. So clearly the web has really changed the way we do writing and the way we publish things. We have WordPress now, other types of products. We're going to talk about how computers can answer questions, data analytics. You've heard of that term. That's what it's all about. It's taking big data sets, or just data sets of any type, and then looking to see how it can be predictive in nature. The functions and applications of different kind of spreadsheets, statistical packages, and how computers can be used in tools as biological and social systems. And that's a lot to say, but we'll talk a little more. Alrighty. So word processing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You already know. In the day, there were several other types of word processing softwares that were all vying for the title. Actually, there was one, I think, that had greater functionality, this is my opinion, called WordPerfect. But Microsoft, with its powerful operating system, because it was the only real operating system, the Apple operating system, and the Mac was not considered to be really in the competition, and clearly not in the business world. So when Microsoft developed Word, it became the predominant software, and it was more easily interfaced with the operating system. So WordPerfect fell aside. And the things we know about, you know all these things. You can change font, color, boldface. Probably you don't even use a small portion of all the functionality. And the problem is it has so much functionality. Sometimes it's difficult to know. How do you set margins? How do you set tabs, styles? Autocorrect, it can be something that we love, and it could be something that we hate. How many times have you had something in a paper where you wanted it to say one thing and the word corrected to something else? So we have to be careful about just relying on the computer to do all its work. I see papers all the time where people just accept all the changes. They didn't read it, and it doesn't make sense. Letters. Now, when we do printing, all the printing is using a font technology called bitmap font stores. And in the beginning, there was this dot matrix printer, and it would actually have little dots that would create these letters. But now everything has become so streamlined and so perfected. Even the dot matrix printers, and they aren't even they're not called dot matrix printers anymore. They have become even so smooth you can't even tell the difference. And laser printers are more of an image type of printer, so that's a whole different type of technology. Outliners, Word has an outliner. There's other types of outliner type of products that aren't in this software that I'm going to talk about in a while. But outliners can be very helpful for just brainstorming ideas. Digital references, it's a blessing and a curse. We have access to so many types of digital references. Wikipedia, we all know, but we have access to all kind of articles, map, all kind of websites, dictionaries, and they're all digital, so you can take and you can pick pieces. The problem is, I see people who will take a piece of something, they won't cite it, and that is considered plagiarism when you don't cite things. So, and you never want to put a paper together of just picking pieces of information from the web. And Wikipedia is the perfect example of people just doing that. Be careful, because there are products out there that we use actually at the university to check lines of text, and it checks it against all sorts of sources, and it doesn't take much to get a hit on something being ripped off from someplace else. Okay, spell checkers, we talked a little bit about that. Just be careful. Don't over-rely on these tools. Same thing with grammar and style checkers. I'm doing a huge paper right now, and I've got different kinds of styles to go with APA standards, and Word continually wants to change it on me. So don't rely on them 100%. Form generation letters. If you want to send out a letter or some kind of a document to lots of people, you could do something they call a mail merge to produce personalized form letters. Collaborative writing tools. So it talks about groupware, but the one that you should know about is Google Drive. Google Drive, it's within your Google Apps. All you have to do is go to Google, and I don't know if you know, maybe I'll just show you really quick. Bear with me because I think this is worth looking at. Here's my, maybe not. Okay. All right, we'll just go to my email quick. There we go, it's coming up. Not too fast. And as you see here, you've got all of these items here. So Google Drive is right here. And when you have a Google Drive, the first thing you need to know is you're going to create a new document. So if you want everybody to edit it, you have to create new, and then it allows other people, blah, 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 to be able to edit it. And to edit it, then somebody just comes in and they could do suggestions. So if I write something that's a suggestion, I don't know if it'll allow me. You see, it allows me. Or they can actually then just view it. Or they can edit directly on the document. But if they edit directly on the document, you'll see that it'll come up with different text. Well, it won't for me because it recognizes me. Anyhow, this is a very good tool to be able to use. All right, back to our presentation here. If I can find my mouse. All right, we'll just go here. All right, go back from the slideshow, play from current slide. Okay, so that helps you understand that piece of it. But there's some other things I want to show you. There's something called they're called concept mapping tools, and one of them is called MindMap by MindMeister.com. And it actually like puts things in bubbles, and it helps you to kind of create entities and then entity relationships. One of my favorite actually is Bubble Us, which is very helpful. And Read Write Gold. We'll talk about that in a minute. So something happened to my mouse. All right, we'll just go like this. So with Word Tools, we are looking to be able to actually take handwritten type of things if you were to use pens and pencils. Because actually you remember things better by writing them by hand. It's something with the way the brain and the hand-eye coordination and the muscles all work together. That stroke actually helps you cognitively remember things or place things in your memory with more strength than typing. So it's very popular to hand write your notes, but what you want to be able to do is hand write them and then have them be turned into text. Well, Read Write Gold does that. Other types of products are, speech recognition softwares. Dragon is one. There's all sorts of other ones that will actually convert speech to text. But if you ever looked at a YouTube where they try to take speech and turn it into text, you know that those softwares the software needs to really understand your voice and the way you talk. So like if I was to take transcriptions of you and then I was to use Dragon, the chances of it working to be able to get even 50% of what you're saying on text would be low, simply because my Dragon would not know your voice. Okay, pen-based systems, Read Write Gold I just talked about, and diversity in handwriting makes it difficult to translate. All right, processing speech recognition software, we kind of talked about that. Intelligent word processors, some possibilities, remind you that analyze writing style as you're typing. Modify your writing to organizational guidelines. Wouldn't that be nice? Desktop publishing, we have heard about all these different things. There's products within Word. You can make cards with desktop publishing. Maybe some of you do already, your greeting cards. But it's just a way to be able to create like a newsletter where you're able then to take headings, pictures, text, and all kind of combine it into, so you create your own little magazine is what it boils down to. All right. And those things are very important. They're important if you're in business and you're trying to sell things. They're important actually even in looking at the web sometimes. If you want people to be able to download your web, to be able to take that web format and turn it into something that is pleasing to look at, that's a document, is very important. All right, creating professional looking documents. All right, so you can already see what are some comparisons of this document. This one is bad. Why is it bad? Very difficult to read. This one is good. It's, first of all, it's a better use of space. There's lots of indentations to be able to look at all of the different lines. So those are things to keep in mind. Ease of readability. Ease of readability is colors, it's font, it's white space. All right. Digital medias are likely to, paper, we save on paper. And there's a new tool coming out, which I think is most interesting, and it's talked about in the presentation done by Ashton today, and it is called PaperTab. And the neat thing is that they're looking at they've created a tablet that is a very flimsy type of plastic that it almost feels like paper. And the idea is that you'll be able to have, several of these. One of them will be a kind of a driver with all the documents, and then you're able to then take another one of these paper tabs and then have the document be on that paper tab. And it's almost like reading a book where you're able to like brush, touch it to move the pages. It feels like paper. It's very lightweight. So I think we're going to see that in the future. That's where we're heading. Okay. Ebook readers, and that's kind of where I'm talking about. I think this technology is going to be outdated in the next 5 years, and you're going to see this paper tab. And they're very inexpensive too. And how they work is that the actual plastic piece doesn't have the chip in it, but there is like a cord, and the cord is attached to like the controller, which would have the chip and all of the important pieces of how it works. And it will be gesture driven, meaning that how you touch it will be how it will react. All right, spreadsheets. Excel is the perfect example, but there's all sorts of other ones, bookkeeping ones, that are used in our industry. And there's a basic concept between all of them. There's a cell, and in the cell there's a value, and the value can be numeric, it could be text, it could be a formula. So those are what happens within an Excel spreadsheet, and they're very useful. They're useful for doing statistical analysis even. Excel has become so powerful that it can do basic statistics that SPSS could only do before. So, and it has some very preliminary database capabilities in the sense that you can file, you can sort things, then you can index different items within Excel. So understanding Excel is very important. My daughter, who's an accountant, says she almost always uses Excel. She doesn't need to use other things because the power of that tool to be able to do all of the analysis she needs to do on balance sheets and income statements. Okay, so the next thing is data analytics, the what-if questions. And you're going to see more and more of that. And it's really putting together different types of formulas to be able to look at data and ask questions. And you ask the what-if questions not about the past data. You ask it to be able to predict future. What if is very important in the stock market, for example, the housing market, for example. You want to be able to predict if these factors change, how will that impact the future? Okay, so spreadsheets, they have graphing, charting, pie charts, line charts. And if you don't know how to do these things, you really should go to YouTube and look at one of those tutorials. They're great, and they'll tell you how to do it because it adds a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that is true. When I was in business, I might write up. Nobody looked at a long report. First of all, they're looking at the pictures. They're looking at very high-level documents to be able to make decisions. So you've got to be very succinct and be able to pictorially represent whatever you're trying to say. So you need to be able to do these things. Scatter charts, very important, especially if you're doing statistics, because you want to find out if something is falling within the median or if there's a lot of outliers. A lot of outliers are very important because outliers actually are things to look at as to why people are reacting a certain way. And oftentimes the outliers are predictive of something in the future. Interesting, I bet you didn't know that. Okay, so double check your formulas, read everything. You can read all this yourself. Build in cross checks Okay. Learn from experts. Go to YouTube. That's what I do. All right. So these are clustered, and they're very important. They're important when you're looking at population. When you're looking at, for example, with this new virus that's come out from the mosquitoes, you're looking at clusters as to what areas are being impacted. How did they know that in Texas, for example, there was a problem? Um, bec- People at NIH are spending all type. That's probably their most popular one, where they're putting geography as well as an incident of some sort together. And then making sure that your labels are clear, so that it really is representative, if you of what you're trying to say. And statistics, SPSS is the one I use. Can be very difficult, but it gives a lot of important information: means, medians, ranges. Gives you a sense as to whether your data is valid or not. Money managers, they use all sorts of different kind of financial systems, which are far too complicated for me to even try to explain. I don't even know what they all are. Math processing software. Now this, I think, is a dangerous one. Makes it easier for mathematicians to create, manipulate, and solve equations. Somebody's got to write that, though. So you're hoping that whoever wrote that software didn't make a mistake. So that's an important thing to note. And remember, software is only as good as the people who wrote it. And this is my favorite one, okay? And the scientific visualization. Having worked at Siemens for quite some time and selling MRI equipment, looking at different areas of the body and then being able to identify different cells by how they might be colored, how they might be shaped, and being able to then compare between what would be a normal subject versus what is a particular, somebody with cancer, for example. This is a perfect example, somebody with dementia, where you start to see here that the brain is starting to change, and this is very important. You're going to see more of this, and this is used. MRI is the perfect example, and where they're able to actually spatially put it around a three-dimensional image of the body to be able to see how it might interface with other types of organs. And then geometry and simulation. Simulation is probably the next biggest area as we move more and more into augmented reality. Augmented reality, where we're going to actually have something within our glasses, very small little, chip or something it's not even a chip. It'll be a type of glass, and it'll kind of change the way you're able to visualize something. Being able to, like, for example, if you were to go to Mount Vernon and you wanted to go and you went into one of the houses, and with the augmented reality glasses, you go into the house and you see like what it would have looked like when people were there, and you might see something cooking, and you might see what the pans looked like, and you might actually see some pictures on the wall, but it would be very different. You would see some action occurring with it, or you might see people. There would be actually images of people, almost kind of like Star Trek. All right, computer modeling and simulation, lots of that. Pilots go through tons of simulation testing. I think we should do this for young drivers, actually. Let them go behind the wheel of a car and really practice in a simulation before we actually take them into a car. I should have done that for my daughter. Anyhow, actually all three of my daughters. All right, so simulations are complex. They need to be simplified to get them to run on available hardware. The amount of hardware required for these simulations is huge because it requires so much instructions and it requires so much memory to be able to have all these pieces fit together. If you think about it, it's pretty amazing. So in order for us to do that, but what is gaming? I mean, when you think of the gaming, people who are putting on their augmented reality glasses, what are they called? Soldier of Fortune or whatever that game is, they are having like a simulated reality experience. Things are coming at them. Remember Project Syria that we talked about last week? Okay, so these are just some other things. So as we summarize, we talked about word processing, desktop publishing, spreadsheets, specialized accounting and tax preparation. I use TurboTax, thank God, and different kinds of mathematic processors. Statistical analysis, SPSS is one that I use. And then scientific visualization. In the healthcare in particular, you're going to see more and more of that. But not just the healthcare. In cars, in all kind of industries, as you're creating things. As a matter of fact, in the old days, you used to have like models. Tool and die people used to actually create models, and then you would pour like whatever the material is, whether it would be iron, whether it be steel, whatever it would be. But now we have 3D printers that are creating things. We have 3D printers that are creating artificial arms, artificial limbs. It's pretty amazing. Okay, computer simulation, very important. We're going to see more of that as well, to be able to really perfect our skills without endangering us. And that's it for this week. So I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Thanks. Looking forward to a great week. Bye-bye.